So some fans might not be happy about a pretty unexpected change in the Chiefs' preseason plans, and while it definitely goes against the norm, in today's video I'll break down why it's probably the best thing they could do for the benefit of the team, and honestly, it most likely means even better news for next week. So I've got to talk about that, a new player popping up on the injury report which makes a recent roster move KC made much more understandable, standout plays from today's last camp practice, and more. But first, how about those? All right, so day 17 of training camp is done, which means all of training camp is officially over. It was a bit of a lighter day overall with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce even working in some with the scout team. We'll see more why that was here in a bit. But that's how you know it was also time to get the heck out of there. All in all, Andy Reid and Mahomes seemed pleased with how training camp went this year. Pat said it's the best practice field you can basically have. They had great weather this year too, for the most part, and while he could honestly do without the dorms, it was a great camp overall. No real low days, quote-unquote low days, and they kept building. Andy Reid echoed that, saying he didn't really feel like they had a single down day. From there, Andy Reid gave some injury updates and ruled a few players out for Friday's game against the Seahawks. The players who did not practice today and will not play Friday either are tight end Jake Briningstool, hamstring. This man has missed a lot of time. IR stash incoming. Wide receiver Hollywood Brown with the foot and ankle was next. And then offensive tackle Ethan Driscoll, appendectomy. He recently had his appendix removed. Now, Andy Reid said earlier this week that Hollywood was back to running again, so he seems to be improving in his timeline to return. And then Mahomes honestly didn't seem too bothered about the time Hollywood has had to miss. I mean, yeah, he would prefer more reps out there with his receivers for sure, but he thinks Hollywood has done a great job in his rehab, his mental work, and the walkthroughs. Hopefully soon, they are building that rapport again before the start of the season. There's still a few weeks to go, so we felt like there's plenty of time to get ready at practice prior to week 1 if Hollywood Brown is able to get back to work here soon. One receiver taking advantage of additional opportunities with Hollywood out is Jason Brownlee. He high-pointed a pass here from Chris Oladokun because why not? That's literally what he does. Brownlee also hauled in a pass from Mahomes in red zone here, a tight window throw into double coverage that resulted in 6. Magdalena, who would have had a touchdown last week if Zappe hit him down the seam, hauled in a touchdown grab here, and Sky Moore even snagged a couple himself in red zone period. These are guys that will see lots of playing time this Friday, okay? And you never know, Sky Moore could be a potential trade candidate, although KC wouldn't be able to get a lot out of him, maybe a late round pick, a conditional late round pick, but still, it's something. We'll see though. Tight end Noah Gray is a player that will not be traded, but he hauled in a laser from Mahomes here on the left side before getting bulldozed to the ground. He also made a nice adjustment on this throw here from Minshew in the middle of the field, spinning around to secure the grab. Veteran tight end Robert Tonyan also could be seen catching a pass here, and he probably doesn't need a ton more reps or snaps in general for KC to know what they have in him this upcoming preseason game, but I'm sure he will still be flying around on the field in Seattle. A lot of these clips you're seeing, by the way, are from Mike Fuller, who attended today's practice. He sent a bunch of clips over to me, so man, thank you so much for that. And from here, there's definitely a few more highlights worth taking a look at. A new addition to the injury report has to be talked about, as well as a pretty surprising update from Andy Reid that I was not expecting. But first, traditional headphones or earbuds are great for tuning in and blocking out distractions. However, sometimes you need something a little bit different, especially if you are on the move. Well, that's where the bone conduction headphones from today's sponsor Raycon comes right in. I can't lie either. I was slightly apprehensive to try these because of how different they looked, but these are perfect while still being able to enjoy your music or podcasts while doing basically anything without worrying about these falling out or being uncomfortable. I've had these on for long periods of time, going on walks with my pup Casey, FaceTiming with my editors, or even going on bike rides, and it almost feels like a cloud just resting on my head. They're not moving either, look. Proof. Anyway, Raycon's bone conduction headphones use bone conduction technology, sending sound through vibrations that bypass your eardrum entirely, so you hear your music loud and clear, but your ears stay open to the world. On top of that, they are IP68 rated, which means completely waterproof and dustproof, so no worries about sweat, rain, or sandy hikes. And with 13 hours of battery life, these keep going long after your playlist does. They also have a secure fit that won't budge mid-burpee, tactile controls that allow you to skip tracks without slowing down, and are light lightweight enough to forget you're even wearing them. So hey, if you train hard, sweat hard, or just want audio that fits your lifestyle, Raycon's bone conduction headphones are built for you. Just go to buyraycon.com/ChiefsBC to get 20% off your order of bone conduction headphones. No buds, just beats. Raycon bone conduction, let your sound move with you. Alright, so while there are not a bunch of insane highlights from today's practice with it being a lighter day, we did see Xavier Worthy catch a pass here and showcase that speed with an inside move for more yakety-yak yards after catch. A bit later, Minshew lofted him a 25-yard touchdown pass, so that was something, and then Chris Oladokun fired a quick pass here to running back Brashard Smith, who, like Worthy, had a nice move as well, cutting inside to get some more yards after the catch. Some surmised yesterday that Brashard Smith could be on the hot seat with the Chiefs adding a new running back into the fold in Michael Wiley. He's a dual threat back that spent last season on Washington's practice squad after going undrafted in 2024. But not so fast, because the one update we had to the injury report today was that Kareem Hunt did not practice as he rests up from what Andy Reid said is a quad contusion, so a quad bruise. It's a little confusing though, because from what I understand, Kareem Hunt did practice in full yesterday, which was Michael Wiley's first day at camp. But for what it's worth, Andy Reid said Kareem is questionable to play Friday, meaning there is a chance that he could at least get some snaps in. So combine that with the fact that Isaiah Pacheco and other key starters might not be playing, more on that here in a minute, and the added depth of Michael Wiley is only a good thing. Sure, Carson Steele might get some work in, and hopefully Brashard Smith as well, because he could use the additional experience, but I don't think the addition of Michael Wiley means Brashard is on the hot seat. I think that case gets even stronger here when you consider the unexpected thing Andy Reid told the media today, and that is Friday night's matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. He's still figuring out who's going to play and not play. There's a chance he sits some of the starters or is rather short with them in their playing time. And his reasoning for that, this is what he told the media at least, is because they want to make sure they get a good look at all these young guys. He wants to make sure Brett Veach and the coaches see more reps to properly evaluate them to help make a better decision on cutdown day, essentially. Well, with that being said, I owe you all a bit of an apology, because I've been saying all week that this preseason game on Friday night, 9 p.m. Central against the Seahawks, was the preseason game to tune into, because Game 2 is where, in years past, the starters have gotten the most playing time out of all three of these games, playing a couple of drives. Okay, it's not a ton, but it's a couple of drives. Well, this is a definite change from the norm, and instead, we're going to see a lot from Gardner Minshew, Bailey Zappi, and Chris Oladokun on Friday evening, with Andy Reid adding that there is a good chance Mahomes does not play at all. However, Andy did add that there's a chance the starters play a bit more in the third preseason game, a game they typically don't play in at all. So yeah, this is a bit of a surprising development here, but I think there's a few reasons for this, and maybe it's a bit of a combination of all three of the reasons I have. Before I get to those though, Mahomes did tell the media today that he's going to prepare to play on Friday no matter what happens. He's going to go through his normal routine and will be prepared for however many snaps he's called for. He always wants to play, to be clear, but Coach Reid has a reason for everything he does, so whether he plays in this upcoming game or in the next one, he's going to trust Andy Reid's process and is willing to go out there whenever. Now, the reasons I don't think we see Mahomes, Kelce, and a bunch of other key starters on both sides of the ball is because, for starters, it's a very late starting time, okay, 9 p.m. Central. Then this is an away game with the third preseason game next week being the only game at Arrowhead. So starters playing in that one would be much more exciting for the fans. But this last reason is probably the biggest one of all and the main one, and that is the field in Seattle is turf, not natural grass. Last week, the Cardinal Stadium featured natural grass, and then of course, it's the same for Arrowhead. So the deviation from the norm, having starters play in the third game at home in better field conditions, definitely makes sense to me. Of course, they do want to give the young guys some reps, so there is a bit of a valid reason there, which is what Andy Reid told the media. It's a wise idea to probably rest key starters, because why risk an unnecessarily increased chance of injury playing on turf for a televised scrimmage? I'm still excited for a bunch of the young guys, rookies, O-line, secondary, all of it, to continue showcasing what they have out there, because there's a bunch of key battles worth keeping eyes on. I would assume, though, we do see the starting offensive line play at least a bit of snaps altogether, maybe a series or two, because they need to keep building rapport with Kingsley Suamataia, left guard, and Josh Simmons at the left tackle spot. Mahomes told the media today that they have both learned a ton throughout camp. They're talented, have great physical abilities, you can clearly see that, and Spags' defense has tested them, and they are only going to improve improve as time goes on. Minshew now was working in quite a bit with the first team O-line today, so I think there's a good chance that happens, seeing all 5 of those guys along the line playing for at least a couple of drives. Hopefully. There's a bunch of guys fighting for roster spots, so I'll be streaming during the game regardless and watching out for the running back room. For example, will Carson Steele or Elijah Mitchell have a more standout game? The battle for the last running back spot could very well be between them, even though, yes, Steele is technically a fullback. Then what about Brashard Smith on special teams? Can he make some plays as a returner? I have a feeling the coaching staff wants to be able to see somebody else, aside from Nico Remigio, the clear-cut best return guy, show that they can return punts and kicks effectively as well. In fact, that's the only way Nico does not end up making this roster. If nobody else shows they can secure the ball and make plays as needed on punts and kicks, Nico's going to be making the 53-man roster as the returner and a depth piece on offense. Then what about the cornerback room? Will Christian Fulton play as he's been working back from that knee injury? My guess is probably not, since it is on turf, and while we may not see Jaylen Watson out there either, Andy Reid did not mention Jaylen Watson's name on the injury report. So combine that with the fact that Watson was back at practice at the beginning with his helmet on, it seems like he's already either cleared concussion protocol or is in the next phase of it and is trending in the right direction. Great news there. That means we will see guys like Nazeeh Johnson, who had an INT today at practice, Joshua Williams, Chris Roland Wallace, among others, flying around on defense and trying to make plays. So let's see who shows the most consistency and gives up the least amount of receptions and yards there. It'll be a good game for them regardless to get some reps in. I also want to see a bit more of an impactful showing from the veteran safety Mike Edwards. He was a bit hit or miss last week, and now that Deion Bush is out with the torn Achilles, the depth in that room took a bit of a hit as well. I'd also love to see defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott make a couple splash plays, something I was hoping we would see last week, but we really did not. Part of the reason might be because of his ankle. He tweaked it early on during camp and might not still be 100%, but still, I need to see him get a sack, multiple pressures, or some standout plays in this one. Same goes for Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He's third on the depth chart in the defensive end room on his side behind Ashton Gelati, who's a rookie, and he really needs to show some solid wins on Friday. I don't think there's a big chance the Chiefs cut him or anything crazy like that, especially considering the fact he's a former first-round pick with a fully guaranteed contract, but there is still a chance it could happen if he fails to impress the coaching staff in these last 2 games. A more realistic scenario to me is a team would end up trading for him, betting on the idea of FAU still being very young and needing more time to develop. I personally would prefer to see Felix get one more season with the Chiefs to really know for sure before a trade or anything drastic like cutting him goes down. But crazier things have happened before, so you never know. Then how about we see Chris Oladokun come into this one after Minshew is done rather than Bailey Zappi? I can't be the only one who wants to see more of what Chris Oladokun can do based on his performance last week, especially compared to the up and down, highest of highs, lowest of lows, Jameis Winston Jr. performance from Zappi. Then, of course, there's the wide receiver battle. Who will shine and make the most of their opportunities given, with Rice, Hollywood, and Worthy probably not playing much, if anything at all. So you'll see Tyquan Thornton, Jason Brownlee, and Sky Moore get more opportunities, as well as some others like Magdalena, Hal Presley, and Keyshawn Smith. Make sure to let me know who you are looking forward to seeing the most this Friday, though. Who's rising the most in your eyes, and who is in the hot seat? Let me know either way in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?